people have been selling into the rally. Absolutely. And look, times are tough. Inflation's high. Not everyone's working. Not everyone has a ton of money put away. A lot of people bought this stuff trying to get rich, which is dumb. You don't buy it for that. I've always said that. You buy it because it is wealth. And there are people that are selling and they have to, or getting old or whatever, their needs. And it has been more so than I would like to admit. But yeah, there's been a lot of selling. And that's why the premiums are the lowest I've seen in my career ever. The buyback premiums, especially. Go look at, companies like JM Bullion or Provident or Atmex. They publish their buyback prices. You'll be blown away by what you see. Blown away. Blown away. And yet this is indicative of the public in the West who's asleep at the switch, completely and totally asleep at the switch. And whether it be the ETFs that have fallen off at a 45-degree angle or the people that are selling their metals, yeah, it has happened. And I don't know if it's a combination of tough times or capitulation or just, people need to sell. There's some of all of it. But it's true. It's real. And it's a contrarian indicator as far as I'm concerned, because the opposite is happening across the globe. It's a mirror image of one another. And to your point about the sanctions and the SWIFT, in the last year, the CIPS, the cross interbank payment system, Chinese CIPS, has done 35,740 transactions worth about $17 trillion. That's off of SWIFT. So the little by little by little, the chipping away at the dollar hegemony, settling all these trades on a different platform, settling these trades in local currencies, taking the excess and putting them in gold and silver and oil instead of treasuries. This is all chipping away at the settlement value and the reserve value of the dollar and the treasury market. Little by little by little, the Chinese are down to 700 plus billion in treasuries from 3 trillion. Little by little by little, they are accumulating commodities instead of opaque debt promises. And at the same time, our public is lining up to sell.
Andy Schectman warns of a looming crisis fueled by actions from China and India. China's cross-border interbank payment system, CIPS, handled $17 trillion in transactions last year, bypassing the US dollar and SWIFT system. Additionally, China's US Treasury holdings have plummeted from $3 trillion to $700 billion, as they and India stockpile gold, silver, and oil. Schectman highlights how Western investors are selling precious metals at record low premiums, creating a dangerous disconnect.
It's sad, but look at take this out a little bit further, and you see exactly where this could lead. And I think it'll be unfortunate before it really, when the COMEX loses its ability to set price, and it's set by the other nations who have all the metal, and the COMEX is like the broken glass. It's lost. People have lost their trust in it, because last I looked, your buddy who you're very close with, who publishes the great numbers on registered and eligible and the rehypothecation, who I would have loved to have had a beer with when he was in town with you a couple weeks ago. Next time for sure, please. The other day I noticed it, he's saying silver is 15, 16, 1700% rehypothecated, meaning those contracts are sold 15, 16, or 17 times over. So if there's 1,700% rehypothecation and everyone who has a 5,000 ounce contract of silver stands for delivery, well, what does that mean? That means one person gets settled and the rest is cash settled. Or to do it another way, in one of his last numbers, I'll just get to it here real quick, he showed roughly 45 million ounces in registered. So take 45 million and multiply that times 17, you have 765 million ounces worth of contracts, paper, backing 45 million ounces in bars. Well, this is all creating distortions that won't end well, and the rest of the world is using it against us. So at the wrong time, people are lining up to sell because of things like rehypothecation, because of things like not reporting the facts, because of things that we are seeing across the globe that no one really is hearing about, including, arbitrage going on in the Shanghai Metals Exchange, or, massive exchange for delivery coming off for physical coming off of the Western markets and being delivered to Hong Kong, which ends up at the Shanghai Gold Exchange. All of these things are not readily known. It should be talked about on Fox News or Fox Business or CNBC or 60 Minutes. that the normies watch, but it's not. And that's why it will end badly for a lot of people. That's why I hope people are getting something out of these interviews that you and I do, and gleaning just a little bit of insight, inspiring them to do their own due diligence and dig and see for themselves that you can't continue to manipulate the world and be coercive in nature without there being pushback. And for most of our lives, the West was too dominant in every way, militarily, financially, economically, everything. And that's changing rapidly. And that's why I think you're going to start to see this phenomenon spin faster and faster and faster and faster as we get closer to some sort of a break point. Don't know when that is, what that looks like, but I know it will come. Something will break. And my guess is it will do so long after the big money has positioned themselves, and the people will scramble for whatever is left. And I talk about low premiums and great availability. That'll be the last thing that you'll find in that environment. And I'm dead serious. I mean that to be gospel, to mean that to be truth. So for whatever it's worth, I go on record saying that's where I think we're heading.
Continuing the discussion, did you know that India has imported over 500 million ounces of silver in the last 2.5 years? That's more than 11 times the amount available for delivery on the COMEX. While Western investors remain oblivious to the implications, countries like India and China are taking decisive actions to protect their wealth amid soaring inflation. Schectman exposes the reality of rising costs, like a $1.75 cheeseburger and Coke, illustrating the erosion of purchasing power.
India, by the way, has imported over 500 million ounces of silver in the past 2.5 years. Now, how big is that? How big is 500 million ounces? Well, let me take a look at the most recent COMEX numbers here. The last time I looked, COMEX silver, the total amount of silver in the COMEX vaults, all of them, is under 300 million ounces. Of that 300 million ounces, 250 or so million is not for sale. It's called eligible, means it could be because it's eligible and it's inside the ecosystem of the COMEX vaults. Let me explain to you what that means. We have 7 or 8 or 9 Brinks programs. I believe we have the best storage program in the industry, and we have 8 or 9 Brinks vaults around North America. Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Los Angeles, Salt Lake City, Miami, New York City. That's 9, and soon to be in Dallas. The one in New York City is the only COMEX vault. It's Brinks JFK at the airport. Super, super high security COMEX vault. It's the only one. I have 2 clients there, each with over 1 million ounces and 1,000-ounce bars. And those are eligible. They're not for sale. They're not going to sell them to India. They're not going to allow them to be sold until they want to. The registered category, on the other hand, has about 46 million ounces in it, let's say. Okay. And those are the contracts that are backing the bars that are for sale right now on COMEX, which last I looked were 1,600% rehypothecated, meaning the same contract was sold to, in essence, 16 people. So 1 would get the metal if they stood for delivery, and 15, that's called force majeure, would get cash. They wouldn't get their physical metal. If everyone stood for delivery, and it's about 800 or 900% rehypothecated in gold. But the point I'm getting at, when you talk about India, they've imported 500 million plus ounces, which if you look at the registered category is over 11 times greater than the bars that are available for delivery off of COMEX right now. The Shanghai Gold Exchange, or excuse me, the London Metals Exchange, the LBMA, is at its lowest level of silver holding in roughly 140 years. So yes, India gets it. People in this country don't. And I think the whole idea of keeping your savings in a currency that is losing, if you look at what real inflation is based upon the way they used to measure it, go to shadowstats.com, you'll see inflation's 11%. So you're losing 11% per year in the purchasing power of your dollar. And, look, I was just at a conference the other day, talked about inflation, just off a sidetrack. I went to the XRP conference, really awesome conference, really, really great, and a lot of great people there. I just want to throw that out there. And I stayed at the Wynn, a beautiful hotel. My wife and I came back after I spoke, and we had dinner later that night at like 9 o'clock, and wanted to order something. So we split a cheeseburger. and it was room service, right? So there's a little cost for that. A cheeseburger, French fries, and a can of Coke, I swear to God, was $75. Swear to God. And that's at, I mean, a really nice hotel. Okay, fine. But the point of it is that inflation ain't going anywhere. And so the people in this country are being kept from the reality of what's happening by the numbers that are coming out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They're keeping the funds and the mutual funds and just the average person who should otherwise be looking to protect themselves in the dark. Yet people in India and in China and the rest of the world, this is something that they've understood for a lot longer than the Bureau of Labor Statistics has been reporting numbers. This is in their DNA. So a guy in India, he's probably in a lot better shape than the rest of us here in the West would be, just because he and his countrymen and women understand it. And that's the most important thing.
Thanks for tuning in today. We've covered some crucial insights from Andy Schectman on the state of the economy, particularly regarding the alarming trends in precious metals markets and global financial shifts. Remember, while many in the West remain unaware, countries like India and China are actively safeguarding their wealth against inflation and economic instability. It's essential to stay informed and take action to protect your assets. If you found this information valuable, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments below.